It's Thursday, at least that's what the calendar says, and it's me and my buddy here, Chris King, Jim Williams here, and Chris, in the pre-show we were talking about, the draft will be next week, right, and there's going to be all kinds of crazy going on. We're going to have some people in here who try to sort it out for us, but we're talking about what's going on with the wide receivers, and we've got some guys who are openly asking for trades at this point because they don't feel like they're getting enough cash. And suddenly that wide receiver spot has become a very hot topic. And so I guess my question to you would be, do you take someone who is a known quantity at this point and, roll the dice and pay them the big cash? Or do you dive into, or do you trade them if you have one, and like in San Francisco, and do you then take, your chance, because they trade a lot of first round choices and second round choices to get the quarterback last year. Right. Now, do you go forward and say, okay, maybe I can recoup some of this, and if John Lynch decides to make a run that way, which way do you go?
Well, let's face it. You're talking about a truckload of money. They're, from what I've read, A.J. Brown and Deebo Samuel all are expecting to get paid around the same amount of money as Tyreek Hill and Devontae Adams. And sure, while they're great receivers, one of the big things that all these teams have to think about, too, is can you afford to take on a contract like that? Can you afford to take on $25, $30 million? Especially if you don't have a quarterback. And, a lot of these teams are scrambling for a good quarterback. You look at teams like, Pittsburgh, they're going to try and get by with Trubisky. And you've got Tennessee's got Tannehill. He's not necessarily a big arm type of guy. Or the Colts have Matt Ryan, who's, at the end of his career. And you've got the 49ers, like you said, Jimmy G wants out because it's basically going to be Trey Lance's team. Can John Lynch afford to deal a guy like Samuel and take away one of the best options that they have in the passing game for Trey Lance to develop? Because if you take him out, who are you going to replace him with? Sure, like you said, you can go in the draft. You got guys like Garrett Wilson, Chris Olave, Jameson Williams once he comes back from that torn knee, and guys like that. But the problem is, there's pros and cons. You got the pros of the fact that he's going to be cheap because he'll be a rookie, so you buy 3 or 4 years. But if he doesn't fit in your system, then you are out of luck, because then you've got a guy that you wasted a draft pick on, and we've seen it happen more often than not in recent years with some of these guys. And it puts Lynch in a tough spot. It's going to put other guys in a tough spot. Look at Tennessee. What are they going to do? What's Seattle going to do? Are they going to deal Metcalf and just decide that they're just going to blow the team up? They traded Wilson. Bobby Wagner's gone. What do they do? What does Washington do? You're close to with the Commanders there. What are they going to do with Terry McLaurin?
I don't know. I know that they're looking to draft a wide receiver. That's probably going to be their number one choice. It wouldn't be mine, but it might very well be theirs.
They need if they deal McLaurin, then you need 2 receivers, because you need one now anyway.
Right. The Deebo Samuel thing to me is he's the closest thing to Tyreek Hill. Okay, because he was second on the team in rushing for the 49ers, and he was number 1 on the team, obviously, in receiving.
Yeah, he's basically an upgrade on an upgraded Cordarrelle Patterson with what he did with Atlanta last year.
Now, I checked this morning, and DraftKings has a list of potential trades, and they have the Jets at number 1 on that list.
Well, that's not a surprise. The Jets have a ton of money, and they need anybody they can get.
Well, they have cap space, which is the key. Because your point was, okay, if you're going to trade for this guy, you're going to have to pay this guy.
Right.
All right, so do I have the cap space to pull that off and still get through? The Jets may very well do that.
Now, they have draft capital to burn, because they've got multiple firsts.
Right. So does John Lynch say, okay, look, I can take Deebo Samuel because I may, I'm putting Trey Lance in as my quarterback. I need this, Swiss Army knife weapon to make it work, or because Kyle Shanahan, basically can figure out how to make offense work in many different ways, and they ran a lot last year.
Right.
Do I dole him off to the Jets or somebody for multiple draft choices, and in the long run, does it work out for me? So, that's why the GMs get paid, and more often than not, it looks to me like they'll probably entertain a trade, but unless you're bringing back stuff, Deebo Samuel can demand a trade and be as ticked off as he wants to. John Lynch is not the kind of guy who's just going to send him out there and not get something back, and it's going to have to be a heck of a haul, because he is somebody. It's not like the other receivers we talked about are good receivers. This guy can do both. He can run and he can receive. So
right.
I think that little thing does elevate him a bit above the other outstanding receivers. But that's what we'll see next week when the draft pops up.
And of course, the other big story coming out yesterday was that Jay Wright retired at Villanova. So I mean, that's a big blow to the hierarchy of college basketball, because I mean, after you lost Roy Williams and then Krzyzewski, and guys like that, now Jay Wright's gone, and we've seen what he did for that program.
Yeah.
And now he'll be replaced by Kyle Neptune, who most people have never heard of because he was an assistant with Jay Wright for a while. And he has 1 year of coaching experience. He coached at Fordham this past year and turned the Rams into almost what you could qualify as a success story, because they went 16-16 after winning 2 games last year under Jeff Neubauer and whoever took over after Neubauer was fired. But now, how does that change the landscape of college basketball, in your opinion?
You mean that Jay's not playing and not going back?
Yeah, he's not coaching. I mean, he's only 60.
Yeah. I mean, I get it. I think that, he's been at Villanova for 21 years, I think, at Villanova. And I get it. I think that there are some people like Krzyzewski who will go till they're almost 80 and coach. There are people like Boeheim who, may be coaching after he passes away. I don't know.
Boeheim reminds me of Ric Flair when in the early 2000s when he was in the WW then F, saying that he will never retire.
Right.
And that's basically what Jim Boeheim is at this point. Jim Boeheim will never retire. It's, Neil Young said it's better to burn out than to fade away.
Right.
Boeheim's going to put that to the test, literally.
Yeah. And you're talking about Coach K retires, right? Well, nobody thought Jay Wright was going to retire. And he just decided, you know what, I've had enough. And I think a lot of people don't realize that this is a year, coaching basketball, coaching football, this is a year-round thing. You've got to recruit. You've got to, go through. It's a grind. And so, he's 60, which is not, that old given how some of these coaches hang on for a while. Maybe his quality of life issues, like, what, I can make money in broadcasting. I can sit back. I can enjoy my life. And, all's good. I'm good. Financially, Villanova did not, wasn't on the cheap side. They paid him. So, maybe he can step into Dick Vitale's role over at ESPN and become like main analyst over there or something along those lines. I think that's definitely a possibility. And I think from that standpoint, for sure, there's a lot of things that Jay can do. I think, it was kind of interesting because, you had the Mike Krzyzewski, tour of final, saying goodbye. And Jay Wright doesn't do that. But at the end of the day, I think from Jay's standpoint, Jay's not specifically a kind of a seek the limelight kind of guy. I know some people are talking about that Jay Wright might take an NBA job. And I know for a fact that the last almost decade, Jay Wright's been offered 5 or 6 NBA jobs, including one, where he didn't have to leave the city, to coach the 76ers. And he's turned them all down. So I really don't think Jay Wright's looking for an NBA job. I think Jay Wright's looking for a broadcast job and an opportunity to sit back and go down to the Jersey Shore or down to Florida, every once in a while and hang out and go out on the boat and enjoy life. I think that's where Jay is.
To your point about TV, that reminds me of something Dick Vitale said in his book a couple back in the 90s. Where else can you coach Indiana on Monday, North Carolina on Thursday, and Duke on Saturday? Mm-hmm. So, I mean, it'd be a good gig for him. And the last thing I wanted to touch on, I don't know if to borrow a quote from Harry Doyle in Major League, talking about the A's and the Orioles yesterday, in case you haven't noticed, and judging by the attendance, you haven't, the A's have managed to play some games here and there and are actually threatening to climb out of the cellar. There was 2,709 people announced as the attendance yesterday at the Oakland Coliseum. They lost money by opening the stadium. Yeah,
that's when I was talking about them not moving a team, that kind of thing is really going to put Oakland in a really interesting situation, because the league doesn't want to move teams. And I don't know if you've met, I know some people may or may not have seen this, but I know John Orund, who's a dear friend of mine, a former colleague when we both were at the Sports Business Journal. John is still at the Sports Business Journal. Wrote a great piece about the Major League Baseball going to Nashville, and they're putting together a $2 billion plus bid.
I thought Dave Stewart was part of that.
Yeah, there's going to be a position. They hope to have not necessarily total minority ownership, but certainly more than cursory, minority ownership. So there's going to be an opening for a team in Nashville, and I think, I know both in Nashville and as well as in Vegas, they want to have that as teams where they can become expansion, because they can get $2 billion plus or more for those markets, as opposed to moving a team where they don't get money for the moving. But when only less than 3,000 people, to say it for that, less than 3,000 people show up for a baseball game, and they open the stadium, and as you say, they lose money, that's just not going to cut it. And
it was hard.
That could be a concern.
It was hard to find people in the seats when they were panning around the stadium. All you saw was a lot of empty green seats.
Right.
It was disheartening for a major league franchise to draw three. I mean, even the Indians drew more than that when they were terrible in the 80s.
Yeah, I was there. They did. The thing is, the old, some people were calling me over the weekend and saying, well, look, there's nobody at the USFL games. I said, guys, they played all the games in Birmingham in 2 stadiums. It's a made-for-television sport. They don't need for anybody to show up. Okay, it's nice if they do, but if they don't, that's okay too. They're doing this for TV. That's not the case with the Oakland A's. The Oakland A's are a franchise that would really like to have some people show up in the stands, because that's kind of the way it's supposed to be done. And I know the Nationals in that first game remember the doubleheader they played, the day-night doubleheader the other night?
Yeah.
The other day. Well, they had like 9,000 something show up for the first game. Well, that's understandable. Nobody knew that game was even going to be played. So, when you get 9,000 for that. And you're going to get some early crowds that aren't going to be big, but less than 3,000 for an A's game that was scheduled is
right. So you didn't just change the time or throw it out there as a reschedule or anything.
Right. It wasn't a makeup for rain out the next day. I mean, this was an actually scheduled game, and they always had 3,000 people show up, which goes to show you that they really don't even have a season ticket base, because they count season tickets. So there you go. It's something to be confused about. I can assure you for that. But there's something that isn't confusing, and that's DraftKings. DraftKings has a promo for all of us here at the Max Wagers Network and our buddies with winners and whiners and picks and parlays. Here's what they got for us. You bet $5 to win 200 in free bets when you make your first deposit of at least $5 and bet on any Major League Baseball money line. And you know what? You win $200 in free bet. Okay. There's only one thing you have to do. One tiny thing. And that is use this code. Okay. There's the promo code. WAW video. Get all your information. Where else? It's in the show box below. Remember, you have to be 21 years of age in some of these states to participate. And as always, please, 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 always bet responsibly. Now, speaking of betting responsibly, we had some folks yesterday ask for the best parlays, and Christopher, my friend, the best parlays came from you in the two for the money area.
Yeah, I mean, granted, we were helped by Joel Embiid hitting that 3 with 0.7 seconds left.
Thank you, Joel.
Yes. Of course, if both teams hit free throws or if Tobias Harris would hit a basket at the end of regulation, that game doesn't even go to overtime.
This is true.
But, we'll take it. We also talked about the Blue Jays beating the Red Sox yesterday, and they won handily 6-1, despite losing George Springer in that game. We talked about Edmonton and Dallas, and the Oilers playing well at home. They played well under Jay Woodcroft. They beat up on the Stars 5-2. And we also had, let's see, what was the other game that we had on there? Let me double check my screen. Let's see.
Yeah, we got Ufer, we got Andrew, we got James, we got Sly, we got IC. Hey, IC. It's a new one for us. Greg's in the house. All kinds of people here.
Of course, we had the Yankees over the Tigers yesterday.
Right.
And that one panned out. So,
and that one worked out nicely.
Yeah, so, I mean, we did our best, and, we answered the call when somebody asked what our best options were, and
there you go.
Hopefully, they panned out for you guys. If you played other things, hopefully they panned out for you.
Yeah.
One thing that didn't pan out was the Avalanche because they continue to not play all their players down the stretch. So be careful with Colorado going down the stretch because they have nothing to play for at this point.
Yeah. What about the situation with we have some injuries in the NBA to talk about, and so that's something too.
About 2 to 3 weeks now with that grade 1 hamstring strain that could affect the Suns.
Yep.
Got to watch out for that. Luka Doncic, last I understood, and I'm going to have to double check, was questionable for this evening's game. From a personal perspective, I'd be happy if he didn't play. From the perspective of Mark Cuban, he'd rather see him on the floor.
Right.
And, Cuban has a couple more bucks than I do, so we'll go with that. But he's still listed as questionable. Those are the big injuries at the moment. The Nuggets, for those of you that are worried about the Nuggets at Ball Arena tonight, they look like a team that's ready to implode. Jokic got thrown out the other night. DeMarcus Cousins got thrown out in the first game. Basically, they were at each other's throats. They got lit up by Golden State. Now they're at home. They have to hope they can find a way to put together a cohesive performance, or they're going to be getting ready to pack up for the year because you go down 3-0, you might as well just phone it in.
Yeah. I'll tell you what, Sly, about Joel Embiid. Last night, I watched the game on NBA TV, and right after they went to their post-game show. And during the post-game show, they do a lot of Twitter stuff, mainly from other basketball players, in the NBA. They're watching it. And there was it was like a continual scroll of MVP, can't believe it, this guy's phenomenal, blah, blah. I mean, it's like every player not playing last night in the NBA was on Twitter just saying how sick that shot was that Joel Embiid.
And it's like I said, he's the real MVP. People get injured trying to stop him, plus game-winning too.
Right.
Joel Embiid would be, if you were watching professional wrestling in the 1980s, he would be a monster heel that they would build up to try and take on at that point. Hulk Hogan, where, he'd go and steamroll everybody. He'd beat up a bunch of jobbers, and win in 30 seconds. Like, look at King Kong. We'll call him like King Kong Bundy. Yeah. Who Gorilla Monsoon used to call the walking condominium.
Right.
But that's basically what Embiid is. He rolls people over. And it's tough for Toronto. They don't have the size to contain him. Birch can't do it. Siakam doesn't have the size. And then after that, if you're relying on Precious Achiuwa, who's a second-year guy in the league, you have problems.
One question I have is phenomenal. This is not me taking anything away from it. But I was surprised in the game yesterday. He didn't play inside at all, hardly. And he has a phenomenal height advantage. You would think that he could play inside and score and wouldn't have to try to be taking those, outside shots that he took. Again, they won, so there's that. But they didn't have their first lead in that game didn't happen until the first overtime.
Well, I mean, they were down, 17?
17 points.
Yeah, so, Toronto came out strong. I'll give them that. But the problem is, and we talk about it all the time, basketball is a 48-minute game. And if you play 24, 28, 32, even if you only play 46 minutes, you're setting yourself up for failure.
Well, and kudos to the crowd in Toronto last night. I mean, they showed up. They were loud. That place was rocking, and the team played hard. I mean, you couldn't play any harder last night than Toronto played, especially given the fact that they were down some guys, and they played hard. And if they could hit free throws, something we have said 100 million times, they might have won that game last night.
Yeah, right? They missed it. They missed a couple at the end of regulation. They missed a couple at the end of overtime.
Right.
And like you said, if we talked about it all year long in college basketball, especially in the tournament, if you don't make free throws and
you're in trouble
in the game, or you don't put them away, that's what's going to happen. I mean, the Raptors were 12 of 18 at the line. I mean, Philadelphia wasn't great either. They were 15 of 20, but they shot 51.4% from the field. God knows what they would have shot if they hadn't turned the ball over.
That's true. Hey, Chris, are we looking at Denver and Golden State tonight?
Yes.
Okay. Kevin, we're going to get there, buddy, so hang in. Sly says he's almost as big as Shaq. He shoots threes and also makes free throws. That's right, Sly. And Kevin, Milwaukee played terrible. Lost the first quarter, first half.
Very disappointed. Losing Middleton in that game hurt the Bucks. What also hurt them was Bobby Portis going out after just 6 minutes. You take away two players like that, and then you also didn't have George Hill, who we don't know if he's coming back anytime soon.
Yeah,
that's a big blow to the Bucks rotation.
Yeah, IC and AJ, we're going to be getting to those questions in a few minutes. First up, though, we're going to do some baseball.
I'll tell you this, AJ, I'm staying away from that Panthers game. Didn't even put it up. The Panthers going off on the money line right now at minus 645. After watching the way Tampa Bay slept blocked against Detroit the other night, I'm not putting faith in Florida here either because, like you said, Florida, they don't care. They've basically got the Atlantic Division locked up. They've got the top spot in the Eastern Conference pretty much locked up. I'm staying away from that game. You could back Detroit. I know that even the plus 2.5 on the puck line was still at plus money when I looked at it last night. It might have changed since then. Detroit's still going off at plus 115 at BetMGM on plus 2.5. So Detroit could lose 5-3, and if you took that, you'd still be a winner. That just goes to show you how ugly some of these numbers are this time of year. I didn't even put that game up. Yeah.
It would have definitely, and James, you're right about the free throws, like missing field goals. No question about it. And guys, it was, and Milwaukee did play ugly last night. They played very ugly. And, look, we've said it all along. You can't, in the East, you can't afford to have a night off because if you do, those teams are pretty even. All those teams are pretty even. And they're gonna come back and bite you. So, an off night, Chicago, doesn't surprise me if Chicago wins because, again, you got to play, as Chris said, you got to play the whole game. Otherwise, forget about it.
Chicago all right. Try to give the game away down the stretch, though. But
they did, but Milwaukee kept choking it back. So there you go. let's go to some baseball, guys, and we'll be back and talk NBA and NHL in just a minute, okay? Because I know some of you want to talk some baseball, so let's go to baseball.
Yeah, not a lot of games tonight because everybody's playing this afternoon. So
Right.
kind of
Marlins and the Cardinals.
Yeah, I felt bad for the Marlins yesterday. You know, Sandy Alcantara threw 8 scoreless innings and then gets pulled, and the bullpen comes in and gives up a 2-run homer in the 9th. So Miami lost that game 2-0. Tonight it's going to be Jordan Hicks taking the mound for the Cardinals, and it looks like he's going to be in an opener role because he's only thrown 4 innings in 2 appearances this season.
Mm-hmm.
He's got to win. So what? You win in relief. We've seen how many vulture wins have we seen this season already?
Pretty much all of them. There haven't been that many pitchers, not named Scherzer, that have got decisions in the first 2 games they pitched.
Yeah, I mean, I've seen Keegan Thompson for the Cubs win 2 games.
That's true. Yeah.
Innings in relief. He threw 3 2/3 the other day.
Mm-hmm.
Pablo Lopez, he's actually pitched well for the Marlins. He's 1-0 with an 0.87 earned run average, and 9 3 walks and 8 strikeouts over 10 1/3. You're looking for offense, don't tune into this game. The Cardinals are 26th in runs per game at 3.09. They're 26th in runs on the road at 2.5. The Marlins 28th in the majors in runs. On the plus side, Miami's 4-1 in their last 5 at home against a right-handed starter. They're 5-2 in their last 7 at Lone Depot Park. Still remember when it was called Marlins Park. It wasn't that long ago. They just built the damn thing. They got to change the name. It doesn't bring the stink off of what's gone on with the Marlins franchise in recent years with trading away, pretty much everybody. And Pablo Lopez, he's pitched well at Lone Depot Park in his career. He's 11-10 with a 2.89 ERA, a 1.112 whip, 52 walks, and 192 strikeouts over 202 1/3 innings, and 35 career starts there. I'm going to back the Marlins. I'm just not sold on the Cardinals. I mean, their pitching staff is mediocre, and I mean, now you're down to a reliever. Sure, Hicks can throw hard. I'll give him that. But can he throw 100 for 4 or 5 innings, or is he just a 1 and 2 inning guy, and then we have to watch Oliver Marmol trot out insert name here from the bullpen 65 times?
Yeah, well, remember the key here too, guys, everybody paying attention to baseball. We didn't have we had a shortened spring training, which means these guys didn't get a chance to have enough time to really get those arms stretched out. So you're going to see pitching that makes no sense. You're going to see some runs that are going to be scored. But, the Cardinals and that whole division with your Cubbies and, and the Brewers, I think the 3, that's going to be a very competitive division between at least 2, if not 3 of those teams, because there's just nobody has any pitching in that division.
Well, I mean, Milwaukee's got 6 guys, but the problem is, will they use all 6 of them in one day?
They got, on paper, they've got a pitching staff.
Right. On paper, they've got Burns and Peralta and Woodruff and Lauer and.
But as Kenny Mayne always said, games aren't played on paper; they're played on television, and that's we'll have to see how that works out. So from
basketball, where they're like, "Do you think Shaq got rich playing in Orlando?" And they go, "No, he got rich playing in college. Everyone knows that."
That's true. He took the cut and pay to go to Orlando. No, I'm just kidding. All right, so the Marlins and the Cardinals. Moving on from South Beach, we go to the Mariners and the Rangers, and we've. The Rangers have been disappointing given the fact that we've talked about the point that they spent nearly $500 million on bats this year that haven't panned out.
Well, I mean, the bats are okay. I mean, they didn't score yesterday until the 9th. I was watching that just to see because I had a 4-teamer up with that had the Mariners in it, so I had to make sure to put it away. And Diego Castillo, the former Ray, you're familiar with him, Jim.
Yep.
Proceeded to try to make the damn game interesting because it was 4-0 going to the 9th, and he gave up 2 to make it 4-2 and had the tying run at the plate before finally closing it out. But the problem with Texas is their pitching is terrible. They're 2-9. They're 1-4 on the road.
Right.
Taylor Hearn 0-1 with a 4.70 ERA, and look at that whip, 2.087. 2 walks, 10 strikeouts, and 7 2/3 innings. You can say, hey, he's only walked 2 guys. And sure, he's only walked 2 guys. That's great. The problem is, he's given up a ton of hits. When you look at the numbers, and you see that 7 2/3 innings, he's given up 14 hits, and you can say, well, none of them are homers. Well, so what?
They don't have to be if you give them up in consecutive innings where suddenly you're down 4 or 5 runs. You can still, score a lot of runs without hitting a home run.
Yeah, I mean, just ask the Indians yesterday. Oh, sorry, the Guardians.
Mm-hmm.
I mean, right-handed hitters are hitting 444 against him already this season.
They're feasting.
Yeah, 12 of 27. And I guess, maybe this will be a break for him because both of his starts came at Globe Life Field. Maybe, going to T-Mobile Park will be better for him. But, I mean, at this point, you've got to wonder, are the Rangers going to find some pitching at all, or were they going to just waffle through another 100-loss season and then have to try and attack free agency again? I mean, they wanted to get Kershaw because, he's from Texas and didn't pan out. So they got John Gray, and he hasn't been great. And then you got a bunch of nobodies. Marco Gonzalez is going for the Mariners here. I mean, Texas, their bats are decent. 6th in the majors, 4.82 runs per game, and they're 3rd on the road at 5.4. They're tied for 14th in runs per game, but they're 2nd in runs per game at home. They've won 5 of their last 6. They've gone 5-1 in their last 6 on grass. They're 4-1 in their last 5 as a favorite. Texas 3-11 in their last 14 games after losing the first 2 in a series. They're 0-4 in their last 4 against the left-handed starter, and they are 6-22 in the last 28 meetings with the Mariners. Everybody knows how much fun it is to be in the Pacific Northwest. I saw enough rain in one day in the nearly 2 years I lived there. I saw more rain in one day than I saw in Arizona in almost 3 years. So, it'll be a wet, rainy night, probably chilly up there in Seattle. And the Rangers bats can't do enough to bail them out. I'm taking the Mariners to sweep the series. Just have no faith in Texas right now.
Chris, let me ask you, living up in the Seattle area, I know a lot of people up there. The park, the T-Mobile Park, which used to be Seiko, it's not a home run friendly park.
No, it's not.
It's a big place.
Basically.
Yeah, and also because of the fact that there's a lot of precipitation up there, the balls don't tend to fly. So, it really is a pitcher's ballpark, and I think that's and Seattle always kind of built their teams around that. I mean, because the Dome before wasn't really a home run park either.
The King Dome.
Yep. Other than Griffey and A-Rod.
Jay Buhner, but that was about it.
Oh, that's right, Jay. Yeah. Buhner.
To your point, over the last few years, according to Baseball Reference with park factors where 100 default, average, the number for park factor for Seattle in batting is 96. So you're definitely talking about a below average park for hitters, especially with the power game. And, that's why Seattle is built more for gap power now than they are for, trying to yank it over the wall, because a lot of those Safeco Field, and that's what I'm going to call it because that's what it was when I lived there. Right after it and everything. Safeco Field is where home runs go to die, especially in right field corner. You don't see too many that carry out to straightaway center. You basically have to, yank it right down the left field line and hope that the wind isn't
even blowing at all.
Off the ocean and then off the Puget Sound and everything else to wreak havoc.
Nathan's buddy hit a 3-teamer yesterday. The Padres, the Dodgers on the run line, and the Brewers on the run. So
I had all those games on different picks, but on different lines. But yeah, I went with the Padres too. I didn't trust the Braves. You may as well fade the Reds as much as possible at this point with the way they've played. And Milwaukee played Pittsburgh, so
yeah. And the Braves have played very, very inconsistently.
They're still hungover for winning the title. Yeah,
and missing a lot more from Mr. Freeman than I would have thought. But they're getting good production out of Olsen.
Right.
Kid's
Their
leading the league in hitting.
But their pitching hasn't.
No, you're right.
They're hoping to get Soroka back. Next month or the month after? Maybe?
Yeah, it'll be before the All-Star break.
Yeah, I mean they need some pitching help. I mean they reacquired Jesse Chavez from the Cubs yesterday to add an arm in the bullpen because they traded Sean Newcomb, who they designated for assignment,
to show how bad off they really are.
Okay. Right.
But we got a fun thing going on here now, and that is Caesar Sportsbook. Now, Caesar Sportsbook is going to give you first bet insurance. Place a first-time wager of up to $1,100, and you get it back in the form of a free bet if you lose. Okay, so frankly, there you go. I mean, that's that's good insurance. Okay, so basically, Caesar Sportsbook, $1,100 first bet insurance. Place a first-time wager of up to $1,100. Get it back in the form of a free bet if you lose, but you have to do this. You have to do the show code. That's right. The promo code's right there scrolling in front of you. And if you go to the show box below, as we told you earlier, then you're going to be able to cash in on that deal from our buddies at Caesars because they've got a really cool deal there. Take advantage of it. Insurance there. Same thing with them. Most states, you have to be over 21, but you'll check that when you go. And always bet responsibly. Okay, cool. All right, we're going to go to the ice now, where some teams need some help tonight to win because we're getting down to the last week of the season almost. So we're getting very close to this being the end of it all.
Ends next week.
Yep.
Regular season.
Here we go. The Blues and the San Jose Sharks. Where's our buddy, the Sharks man himself?
Yeah, I don't think Ryan's been in here yet today.
I don't see Ryan. Yeah. No.
But the Blues, they're fighting for home ice advantage in the first round of the playoffs because they're going to face Minnesota. Both teams have 103 points coming into this one. If it comes down to a tiebreaker, for some reason the league made the first tiebreaker not head-to-head matchups, not division matchups, regulation wins. You figure out what Gary Bettman was thinking. In that case,
that's the rules committee. But okay.
Yeah. But in that case, St. Louis would have the advantage. They have 41 regulation wins. The Wild have 34. But you look here, the Blues facing the Sharks, the Blues 9-0-1 in their last 10. They lost the other night to Boston in overtime. Ville Husso 24-6-6 with a 246 goals against, a 923 save percentage, and 2 shutouts. He seems to have wrested the starting job away from Jordan Binnington. And remember, just a couple of years ago, Binnington was considered the greatest thing since sliced bread because he brought the Blues a Stanley Cup. Now he's relegated to be 1B or 2 on the depth chart. Mm-hmm. He's going to face Capo Kakkonen, who's 13-12-4 with a 292 goals against and a 911 save percentage. Kakkonen hasn't done a whole lot since he came over from Minnesota at the trade deadline. He became expendable, of course, when the Wild got Marc-Andre Fleury. The Blues are an explosive offensive team. They're 4th in goals for at 374. They're 11th in goals against at 284. The Sharks are 29th in goals for at 2.58. They're 20th in goals against at 3.16. And all these numbers here don't look good if you're a San Jose fan. Sorry, Ryan, when you see this later on. The Blues 6-0 in their last 6 against teams with a losing record. They're 4-0 in their last 4 on the road. Like we said, they're 9-0-1 in their last 10 overall. They're 1-5 the Sharks are 1-5 in their last 6 on 1 day of rest. Sharks are 0-7 in their last 7 against the Central Division. 0-4 in their last 4 after allowing 2 or less. And the Blues, they like going out to San Jose. They're 7-1 in the last 8 meetings there, and they've won the last 4 meetings between these teams overall. There's not a whole lot good you can say about the Sharks at this point of the year. They've been eliminated from playoff contention. They're just 1-5-4 in their last 10, and the Blues have been lighting the lamp at a ridiculous rate. That loss to Boston the other day snapped a string of, I believe it was 11 straight games. Let me see here. 1, 2, 3.
Yeah, it was up there. It was either 10 or 11.
12.
12. Ooh.
12 straight games where they scored at least 4 goals.
Wow.
That's tough to do in the NHL.
That's putting some points on the board.
Yeah. Putting the old biscuit in the basket.
Yeah, pretty much.
I look for them to do that tonight and light up San Jose, who's basically playing for nothing. They're
you said,
their team at home.
Like you said, Chris, I mean, when these games mean something, and clearly this one does to the Blues, they got to put the pedal to the metal on San Jose because they can't, you can't screw up an opportunity to pick up points when you're playing a team that's much lesser than you are.
Yeah, and the Wild have Vancouver tonight at the XL Energy Center. So, if Bruce's boys pull out an upset win there, that would help St. Louis as well because it would put St. Louis 2 points ahead.
It also wouldn't hurt Vancouver.
That's true.
So there's that as well. All right. So from out at the Shark Tank, we're headed over to.
We're going to go down the way there.
Down the coast, down I-5.
Yeah. Yep, down I-5 to the city of Angles. No, that's City of Angels. Mm-hmm. The Kings hosting the Blackhawks. The Blackhawks, of course, ticked me off last night by beating Arizona 4-3 in overtime. But let's face it, they're still not going anywhere. They're 26-40 and 11. The Kings 41, 27, and 10. Kings haven't been all that great at home, though, and I can't figure that out. They're 19, 16, and 4 at home, but they're 22, 11, and 6 on the road. Apparently, nobody likes the Crypto Dome.
I was gonna say you got the Lakers and the Clippers. I mean, it's a mess there. What's going on?
Yeah, Colin Delia 1-3-0 with a 393 goals against an 898 save percentage. This just goes to show you how bad the Blackhawks are now that they traded Fleury. It's Delia and Kevin Lankinen in net for the Blackhawks as the 1-2 tandem. I would probably call them 3A and B on the depth chart because let's face it, I'd take an empty net over these guys. Jonathan Quick, 2013 and 9, 263, 909 save percentage, 2 shutouts for the Kings. Blackhawks 27th in goals for, 2.64, 26th in goals against, 3.56. Kings aren't great offensively. They're 21st at 2.82, but they keep the puck out of their own net fairly well at 2.86 a night. The Kings are 6-2 in their last 8 against teams with a winning percentage below 400. They're 19-7 in their last 26 as a favorite. The Blackhawks 1-4 in their last 5 on the road, and that came yesterday against the aforementioned Coyotes. They're 10-43 in their last 53 against teams with a winning record. They're 1-7 in the second game of their last 8 back-to-back situations, and they don't like going out west. 2-7 in their last 9 meetings with the Kings. I will look for Los Angeles, who needs these 2 points. I mean, let's face it.
Yeah,
it's a crowded race for those last couple spots in the West, and the Kings now just 3 points ahead of Vegas for the final guaranteed playoff spot. A win here would go a long way to securing that because they would be up. They'd be 5 points up, and Vegas has 4 games to play.
And you don't want to get iced out in this one. So there you go. Well, Christopher, my friend, it seems as if we have a room full of NBA folks.
Well, real quick, let me touch on Euler there. He's asking about the Rangers and the Islanders.
Oh, yeah.
That one's the total's under 5.5. You have to think, you've got Igor Shesterkin starting for the Rangers. You've got Ilya Sorokin starting for the Islanders. I mean, these guys have combined for 13 shutouts on the year. So some pretty good numbers there. Shesterkin has 6. Sorokin has 7. Shesterkin has a 201 goals against. Sorokin 232. You'd have to think Sorokin would be getting more talk about the Vezina if he played on a team that could actually put the puck in the net with any kind of consistency. Mm-hmm. You look at the meetings this season, final scores 4-1 in favor of the Rangers, 2-1 in favor of the Islanders, 3-0 in favor of the Islanders. The last 5 meetings and 9 of the last 10 have fallen under the total between these two teams. In those games, you've seen totals of 5-2, 5-5, 7 in the one game that went over, which was in April of last year, 4-3, 5-3, 3. I don't think you're going to see a ton of offense here. You're probably going to see another 2-1, 3-1 type of game. Maybe if it's an offensive bonanza, it'll be 3-2. But I'm leaning towards the under there as well. it's kind of hard to argue with the fact that you haven't seen more than 5 goals scored in 9 of the last 10 matchups between those teams. And the total for 9 of the 10 matchups was set at 5.5. The other one was set at 6. I would lean towards the under there.
There you go. All right, let's go to the playoffs because, as I said before, we got a whole playoffs. Yeah, you're kidding me. All right, so we're going to the playoffs in the NBA because so many people are excited. And let's go and see what we got going on.
Yeah, Bryce, I saw you were asking how I felt about the Nuggets. We touched on it earlier in the show. The Nuggets look very disjointed at this point. You look and they look like they were ready to take each other out in Game 2 against Golden State. Jokic got thrown out. Cousins has been thrown out of a game already. The Nuggets, I can't figure out. I know they're missing Porter. I know they're missing Jamal Murray. I noticed Tim Earl hasn't been in all week. I'm guessing he's mourning the fact that Denver's played so poorly in the first 2 games of this series. Because normally he pops in and says hi at least, but we haven't seen him. And you look. I
think he's working a night shift. Yeah.
That could be. You look at the way the Nuggets have played. Aaron Gordon has done nothing. He's got averaged 7.5 points a game in 2 games. That's what Cousins is averaging. He's only averaged 11 minutes. Beyond Jokic, though, I mean, and they've taken away options too. Because if you look, Jokic is only averaging 5 assists in the first 2 games of the playoffs. And you look at what he did in the regular season when he was averaging almost 8 assists a game, which is unheard of, really, for a center. Denver is about this far away from ripping apart at the seams and exploding or imploding, however you want to put it. I mean, Golden State, they average 124.5 points a game in the first 2 games. They're shooting 53.6% from the field, 44% from 3. Denver, 106.5 points a game. They're shooting 44.4% from the field, 33.8% from 3-point range in the series. The Nuggets just don't have enough options offensively to scare anybody. And when Golden State rolls out that small ball death lineup that they've been going with, Denver can't adjust. That's the problem. This would be a completely different series if you had Porter Jr. and or Murray. Unfortunately, they don't. And that's the problem, is they don't have a reliable second or third scoring option that's going to scare anybody. I like Will Barton as a complimentary player. He doesn't scare me as your number 2 option. Bones Highland, he's a rookie. He's not going to scare me either. Then you're having to rely on Monty Morris or Austin Rivers. No. When you're facing a team like Golden State that's got Curry and Thompson and Jordan Poole.
And Curry's your 6th man.
Yeah. And you've got Draymond Green healthy. I mean, don't get me wrong, Green's not an offensive weapon, but he plays good defense. And he's an annoyance. Let's put it that way.
Here's one for you, Chris, on this game.
I have a tough time with trying to go with the first quarter because, sure, Denver might come out strong in the first 5 minutes, but Denver could fold up like a wet blanket too. I think Golden State's going to win the game outright. It wouldn't surprise me if they're ahead at the half. I just don't know what Denver has left at this point. Denver's defense has been atrocious since the All-Star break, which is strange because, you know, they have some good players, but you look at some of these numbers that the Nuggets have put up, and I mean, my God, they're just brutal. Since the All-Star break, before the All-Star break, Denver gave up 107.8 points a game. Since the All-Star break, Denver's given up 116.8 points a night.
Wow.
That's not sustainable if you want to have success. And it's definitely not sustainable if you're facing Golden State in a playoff series where you've already lost 2 games. In their 5 regular season games in April, just leading up to the end of the regular season, Denver gave up 125 points a game in those 5 games.
Wow.
The fact that they won 2 is impressive, but you just can't – it's hard to rely on a team that's played so badly I know everybody wants to think they're at home now, so the crowd will be behind them, and I know that worked for Toronto yesterday. I can't get behind it just because I'm not sold that Denver can put together 12 or 24 cohesive minutes. But that's just my take on it. What do you think, Jim?
I think the problem is you hit on it. The matchup with the Warriors most of the season was the second best team in basketball until they got some guys hurt. And now they're getting guys healthy, which is good for them and bad for the rest of the team. But Denver does the point that you made, the key point, and you made many good ones. The key point there is matchup. Basketball, like all sports, is about matchup. And Denver doesn't match up with Golden State at any position where they have a position of strength. So where do you go?
Other than center.
Well, yeah, but I mean, unless your center is Joel Embiid, then you got you're in trouble. Or Shaquille O'Neal, or somebody like that. Somebody who's going to dominate. They don't have a dominating center. It's going to bring you 35, 40 points a game.
Well, I mean, Jokic is he's a Swiss Army knife because, like we said, he's 8 assists in the regular season.
Sure. But he's more of a Dirk Nowitzki than he is a center. I don't know. I just think my point is that what you touched on is that they don't, that there's no place they can go to get the points they need to make up for what the weapons that Golden State puts out there.
Yeah, and you figure the Golden State hasn't even really brought in Kuminga, who's was valuable down the stretch in the regular season,
right,
as a scoring option. So
right, they can go. Golden State can go 3 or 4 different ways. Denver can't.
Yeah,
and that. So what does that mean? Just can Denver win? Of course, Denver can win, but it's not likely that they will win because they haven't shown any real reason to believe it.
And that's been their problem, exactly.
Right. So there you go. Kevin says he's going to go to the safe bet. Golden State. Denver, Golden State. Denver.
I actually was leaning towards the over just because if you look at the way Golden State has played in the first 2 games of this series, and I have the over listed in the shot in the dark segment there. I mean, we talked about how dangerous Golden State is. You look at the first 2 games in the series, Golden State has hung 123 and 126 points. Now, Denver could try to slow it down at home with the altitude, but the fact is that, like Jim said, Golden State has the ability to go 9 or 10 or even 11 deep, so the altitude doesn't really have as much of a factor that it would on some other teams. Plus, they've had a couple of days off since Game 2. Mm-hmm. So it's not like they're coming in on the second game of a back-to-back situation here. I think it's probably going to end up over. I think the Golden State's probably going to hang another 120 because Denver can't figure out how to stop them. Mm-hmm. And look at the effective field goal percentage for Golden State in the first 2 games, 63.6%. I mean, that is a ridiculous effective field goal percentage. I don't shoot that well playing video games.
That's it. You can't take a Nerf ball and bounce it off the wall that many times and make it work.
Exactly.
That's amazing. All right, we're going to go over to the next game. It's Memphis and Minnesota. We did have somebody ask a question about the Mavs.
Oops, I saw Bill asked about the Mavs. Mm-hmm. I'll be honest, as in full disclosure, that I've been a Jazz fan, like I said, since before Jerry Sloan, the late Jerry Sloan, was their coach and everything. Mm-hmm. A lot of that is going to come down to whether Doncic can play, because I will tell you this: after watching Game 2. There is no way in hell that the Mavericks are going to hit 22 3-pointers like they did in Game 2, where 17 of them were considered uncontested, which is the most uncontested threes in a playoff game in the last 10 years. I think it's going to be a close game. So if I was going to play that game, which I'm clearly not going to, I would take Dallas with the points. I think it's probably going to be another 4 to 6 point margin, one way or the other. Of course, like I said, if Doncic plays, I wonder if he'll be on a pitch count. He hasn't played since the regular season finale.
Mm-hmm.
Will they do what Kerr has done with Curry and bring him in off the bench? Jokic does look exhausted because he's the only guy doing anything on that team. And like Michael said, too, the Nuggets are brutal against the spread. They're 4-10 against straight up and against the spread as a home underdog in the last 2 seasons. Those aren't good numbers.
No, I'm not good at math, and even that.
It's a 286
I
winning
can do that.
percentage. But yeah, if you're gonna play the Dallas game, I'd take Dallas with the points. I mean, I don't think Utah's going to run anybody out of the building. The Jazz have to be better in perimeter defense. Rudy Gobert can't try to guard 3 guys. It just doesn't work. I mean, Eiffel Tower is a great player, but if he's supposed to guard Kleba out in the corner, then you can't have him worrying about Brunson trying to drive to the basket. Mike Conley was a 0 in that game. No points, 22 minutes. He's going to have to play better. But I think it's going to be – if I had to pick the game, I would take Dallas with the points.
There you go. All right, Memphis and the T-Wolves. This one being played in Minnesota.
Yeah, at the Target Center. Memphis second in scoring offense in the postseason behind Golden State. Minnesota 6th, 113 points a night. Memphis has not hit threes with any kind of success so far. They're averaging 29.5% from beyond the arc in the first 2 games of the series, second worst among playoff teams. Minnesota not a whole lot better at 36.1. But this comes down to, at least Memphis has some guys that have been in the playoffs before. You've got Adams and you've got guys like that. I just think Memphis, they have a little more experience. And that's not saying much because Minnesota has no playoff experience. I just think that Minnesota, they tend to implode at the worst times. And, we saw that happen early in the second half of game 2 when John Morant and company took over. Memphis is 20-6 against the spread in their last 26 on one-day rest. They're 5-2-1 in their last 8 after a straight-up win. They're 25-10 in their last 35 as a favorite. Minnesota, as well as they played, and give Chris Finch a ton of credit, he should be considered for Coach of the Year as well. I mean, he won't get it because it'll probably go to Monty Williams or Taylor Jenkins. And those are both fine candidates, but I would put Finch on my ballot personally. And that's something we're going to be working on, is getting some ballots together for you guys to vote on who you think should have won some of these awards. Because odds are they won't agree with what the writers came up with. You look, Minnesota's 1-4 against spread in the last 5 at home, 1-5 against the spread in their last 6 overall. And Memphis has gone 16-5 against the spread in the last 21 meetings between these teams. It's only a 2-point line. I think Memphis is going to win the game outright. And I think it'll be probably by 5 or 6 points. I don't think it's going to be as one-sided as we saw in game 2. So I'll give the 2 and take Memphis. So
basically, it's an even game, but because it's being played in Minnesota, they give 2 points to Memphis, right?
Well, normally, and in football, the lines, it's usually 3 or 3.5.
Right.
NBA, it's probably, I want to say, home court advantage. When they do the line, it's probably worth a bucket or so. So if this was in Memphis, Memphis probably would be favored by 4 or 5. So since they're on the road, it's down to 2. Depending on where you look, some people will tell you home court is worth about 3 points.
Right.
Some other sites will tell you it's worth 4.
I don't think the Target Center is that lit.
Yeah, well, there's that too. But, I mean, it could be because they're not teams that have been they haven't been a team that's been in the playoffs for a long time. So
right.
Could be excited tonight. They could be amped up.
Yeah, we'll find out. But Memphis, Memphis has been that little team for us all year long that has played consistently and has they've been very, as the old Chico Escuela line is, they've been very, very good to us over
It's
the
true.
year. They've been very consistent. I love Andrew's line about the shot last night by Joel Embiid. The game winner wasn't guided by Magnuson. It was done by a laser from overhead camera, but nobody knows that's our little secret. Thanks for sharing that with us,
Andrew. I don't know why you told everybody. That's why I put it up as one of the picks of the day, because I knew that it was going to win. And now you just ruined it. So now I have to come up with a new scheme.
Right.
For when
Now we're
Philadelphia wins
screwed.
Game 4.
Right.
So way to go. You just blew it for everybody.
Come on, Andrew. You got to help us out, buddy. That's the whole thing on the secrets. We can't be giving those things out.
Do I think Vegas is wanting everyone to take Memphis -2? If I thought that, then I would have to think that they would want everybody to take Golden State because they're only favored by 2.
Well, if Vegas went there, then they wouldn't be favored by 2. Then the money line would move.
True. I think that I think it just boils down to, Minnesota's played well at home. They're as you see, they're 27-15, counting their win over the Clips in the play-in tournament.
Mm-hmm.
But Memphis is a good road team. I think that if Memphis was, say, like Atlanta was on the road, where they were like 17 and 24 or 17 and 25 or whatever they are, then I think you would have seen this line probably be more closer to a push or Minnesota favored by 1. But as it is, Memphis was a good road team. And, the other thing you have to remember is Memphis played a quarter of the season, give or take, without Ja Morant and still won 17 or 18 games in that stretch.
Right.
So I think that's why you're seeing Memphis as a slight favorite, just like you're seeing Golden State as a slight favorite.
Nathan, we got some baseball coming up here, buddy, and we'll come back and take a look at that for you.
I think you might as well just pound the Orioles with the under as much as you can, because the under is 10-0-1 in Baltimore's games this season. Yesterday, in that exciting game with literally hundreds of fans in attendance, the final score was 1-0.
Somebody asked me yesterday, who's an Orioles fan,
and he admitted it.
Yeah, he did. There are a lot. I mean, Orioles fans are pretty are definitely loyal to their team. Anyway, asked me if I knew what station to listen to them on the radio, and I'm thinking, oh God, I don't know. I don't know. So I had to look, check, and see where they are. But yeah, it's pretty wild for O's fans. Memphis full game. Here's the first quarter. Okay. I mean, yeah, that's possible. I mean, anybody's playing at home, right? They're going to be amped up first quarter. That's like watching college basketball, right? You get the home team gets amped up, and all of a sudden, by halftime, reality sets in, and the second half.
Because the excitement and stuff can only take you so far. Just to ask the Raptors yesterday,
adrenaline.
You have to wonder, will Brooklyn bounce back now as they head home for games 3 and 4, down 2-0 as well? Because Kevin Durant, he had 27 points or whatever yesterday, but 18 of them came with the free throw line. Yeah,
he's not gonna be spending that much time at the free throw line in game 3. That's not gonna happen, boys and girls. So onward and upward. Speaking of onward and upward, 2 things. We got 2 gifts for you. Well, we have 1 gift and one something that's very special. The first gift we have for you is we have a baseball book. Now, we've been talking about how to bet baseball and all the kind of cool stuff with baseball. It is free, and it's from your friends here at Max Wagers. All you got to do is go to our show box below. All the information is there. Click on the link and get the book. Chris and I have the book. We love the book. It's got all kinds of good stuff in it. Chris actually wrote some stuff in the book, so there's that. And you're definitely going to want it, so get that. Also, to get Chris's picks, his parlays, you're going to want to go there too. So that's also in the show box below. Just look down there. Click on the show more. It'll drop down. All the good stuff's there. So be sure to check that out, because we definitely want you to do that. Okay?
Yeah, we had on those ones yesterday, we had a couple of 4-teamers come out. One of them would have paid out about $3,100 on $100.
So see,
that was a good night.
So if you go ahead and did, let's say you go down there and you look at that stuff and you use our Caesars deal, which is up to $1,100. Read Chris's stuff. What do you got to lose, right? Because they're going to give you bet insurance. And
that's true too.
So there you go. You got nothing to lose, and you can get some good picks. So by all means, go to our show box below and sign up for Chris's picks. And speaking of that, let's go for what else? The money, right?
Yep. And there we go. There we are. Yeah, we already talked about Golden State. I think Golden State's going to have a little trouble.
And the Kings and the Blackhawks.
Yep. And the Blues we talked about. And I like Carolina over Winnipeg. It's going to be Antti Ranta against Connor Hellebuyck. I know Sly is disappointed to see the Jets up here again, but as he said the other day, he waved the white flag on the season after those losses to Ottawa. He was here earlier.
I know. Yeah, I haven't seen him. Sly. Did Sly are they out of the snow? Sly, are you out of the snow yet, buddy?
I'm pretty sure that it blew through. I don't know if the weather's gotten any better. I mean, my parents had snow on Easter. According to this, it's currently 38 in Winnipeg, so it's not freezing at least.
So everybody's getting the shorts out and they got the tanning stuff going on in Winnipeg.
Exactly,
Yeah, it gets pretty cold up there. Yeah. So all right, let's for the show, I guess, huh?
Yeah. And here we've got. I'm going to write. Sly says maybe more snow coming this weekend.
Oh man,
sounds like my parents' house.
Sly, I'll tell you what, buddy, you're a better man than I am, Gungadin. I can't take that. That's good stuff. All right.
It's like I always tell anybody that wants to go up to the Buffalo area and thinks that snow is over because it's springtime. You're not safe from snow until Memorial Day.
There you go.
Just keep that in mind.
That weather brought to you by Caesars. Okay, thank you. Go ahead.
I'm going to go with the Mariners over the Rangers, just like we did yesterday. I have no faith in Texas's pitching. They've been awful. We talked about the Grizzlies over the T-Wolves. I'm going to take the Rangers over the Islanders. The Rangers battling for the top spot in the Metropolitan Division. With the Hurricanes, they need this win. The Islanders are just playing for pride and to stick it to the
Rangers,
their geographical rival. And I'm going to go with the Flames over the Stars. We talked about the Stars playing last night. Now they've got to play in Cowtown after playing in Edmonton. It's a tough back-to-back to play, especially with the way the Oilers played last night. I look for the Flames with Jacob Markstrom to get the win in that contest.
Okay, and now shot in the dark for the entire enchilada. Here it is, boys and girls.
Yeah, we talked about the Marlins earlier. I'm still going to ride them with Pablo Lopez. I got the A's over the Orioles. I think the A's kind of got jobbed yesterday because the one run that Baltimore scored on an error. They had Billy McKinney called out at the plate on replay when it still looked like the tag missed. But there's that.
They've got the over-under on there's going to be 5,000 or more people at the Coliseum.
Yeah, I'm going to go with the Nationals over the Diamondbacks. I'm probably going to take the under on 5,000. This is an afternoon game. The game starts in about half an hour.
Point. Yeah.
But I'm going to take under 7.5 as the total. Like I said, Baltimore has seen the under go 10-0-1 in their 11 games this year. They haven't seen more than 8 runs. Or no, they saw more than 8 runs once, and that was a push on a 9-run total. Not expecting offensive fireworks because we know Oakland's not a ballpark that's conducive to the long ball. Now that these teams hit it anyway. I look for the Grizzlies and T-Wolves to stay under 236.5. Minnesota's totals tend to be lower at home than they are on the road. I look for Denver and Golden State to go over 223 like we talked about. Golden State's put up 123 and 126 in the first 2 games of the series. Expect another showing there. I think Dallas and Utah is going to end up under 210.5. First game was 192. Second game was 214. But, they got there at the end. Yeah, and it could end up over. I just don't have a ton of faith. A lot of this, like I said before, hinges on whether Doncic plays or not. Because at this point, he's just listed as questionable. James said the line for the Mavs is now 7.5, which makes me wonder if there's speculation that they might hold Doncic for Game 4 as opposed to game 3 because he's still listed as questionable. Oh, there we go. According to Bleacher Report, and you can take that for what it is. It's from Waj, so I have a lot of faith in what Waj says. He said there's significant pessimism surrounding Doncic's Game 3 status, despite the fact the star said he's feeling great after a post-shoot-around workout. So I'm wondering then if they're going to, since they split the 2 games in Dallas, I bet you if it was 2-0 in favor of Utah, you would have seen Doncic tonight for sure.
Mm-hmm.
Now that it's 1-1 and they know that they're going to head home regardless of what happens after games 3 and 4, I'm wondering if maybe they're trending towards playing it a little safer and making sure that Doncic doesn't end up aggravating that injury. And he'll play in game 4. But that could be something to watch for as well. Because let's face it, Doncic is the best player that the Mavs have, bar none.
Do you think it goes under Luka plays? I don't think so.
If Luka plays, probably not. If he doesn't play, they barely got over the total the other day.
Right.
And they stayed well under it in game 1.
Mm-hmm.
But if Doncic plays, then it's a different story. I'm basing it off the fact that he was questionable, and I doubted that he was going to play or he'd be on a minutes restriction.
Sure.
I'm going to go with the Flyers over the Canadians. Carey Price gets another start, looking for his first win. Martin Jones starting for the Flyers. Not overly impressed with that, but it's a shot in the dark, so we can take it.
That's why they call it a shot in the dark
with these subpar teams.
Right.
I'm going to take the Sabres over the Devils. And I'm going to take the Penguins over the Bruins. Both those teams battling for playoff position.
They both need to win.
Yeah, Pittsburgh, 1 point ahead of Washington?
Yep.
And Boston, 1 point behind Tampa Bay.
Mm-hmm.
Both of those battling for the final guaranteed spot in their respective divisions.
I wouldn't be surprised if Boston caught Tampa Bay.
Well, it'll depend. Like we've talked about in the pre-show with our buddy Rock Riley over there at the Amalie Arena. Mm-hmm. Tampa Bay hosting the Maple Leafs tonight. Apparently, so that'll be entertaining for some people.
Hopefully for Rock. Yeah.
Well, hopefully not for Rock because I'd like to see Tampa.
Oh, that's right. You're a Maple Leafs fan.
But the Leafs aren't going to have Austin Matthews. They're resting him again tonight. They're not going to have Jake Muzzin. Of course, they said that the other night against Flyers, and they still won 5-2. So I'm not.
Look at what Detroit did to Tampa Bay the other night.
Yeah, that's true. So that's why I didn't put the Florida game up.
Yeah.
Especially at -6 something. That's a little bit beyond even what I put up.
That's going deep. That's definitely going deep. So, all right, boys and girls. I don't see any questions from the class here. Do you? Oh wait, there's one. Here's one from Kevin.
Dallas the line's already gone up to 7.5. If you're going to take Dallas with the points, it probably wouldn't hurt to do it. Maybe wait and see if it bumps up a little higher. I wouldn't wait any longer than because the final injury report comes out, 90 minutes before tip, something like that.
Mm-hmm.
So I wouldn't wait any longer than say 5 or 6 Eastern, because you don't want to have it come out that all of a sudden they rule him out, and then all of a sudden the line jumps to plus 12 or whatever, or they say he's going to play, and then it goes down to 2 or 3. So, you can jump on it now if you want, or if you want to wait a little bit to see if it goes up to 8 or 8.5 or whatever, you can do that too. But don't wait too long is probably the best advice I can give you, because you never know what's going to happen.
Yeah, because you get your value right now.
Because Waj is saying that there's people that are pessimistic. Waj is usually pretty much on the pulse of what's going on in the NBA. Him and
right.
Shams Charania at the Athletic.
Right.
So
pessimistic doesn't mean totally not playing.
Right.
So
but it doesn't mean he's going to suit up either.
No. What I'm saying is, if you can get the points now, take them.
Yeah, that's true, because if you find out afterwards that he's going to play, then it's going to plummet, and then you're going to be kicking yourself in the ass because you didn't take it when I was at 7.5 or 8.
Right.
As opposed to 3.
Yep. Bank it before it gets too far away from you. So there you go. All right. Any final thoughts there, Christopher, before we hit the goodbye button here?
Well, I mean, we had a good night yesterday. Hopefully, we have another good one today. Hopefully, you guys had a good time. Make sure that, like Jim says, to like and subscribe on the Max Wagers Network channel, because apparently we're moving everything away from the other 72 channels that we have
soon,
next week.
Very soon. Yeah.
So I want to make sure you do that so you know where we are.
All right.
Going forward.
We don't want you to have to go hunting for us. We're easy to find. Just hit Max Wagers Network. Speaking of which, remember that our buddies Sean Higgs, and he does the mid-morning show. He does Midday Money, followed by Allie. Followed by Allie Burns, Morning Wood at 1 o'clock. Then it's 2 o'clock right here. Where else would you want to be? 3 o'clock. It's Scott and Scott over at Back to the Window.
They're on right now on Max Majors Network, the Ocho.
Right, the Ocho. Deportes. And coming on Monday, you're going to have, if you're a soccer fan, you're going to have a place to go. Sean Miller at 4 o'clock and 5 o'clock. Lenny and the boys, Tim and Nick, they're going to come in there and kind of get you ready for the night action. And by that time, by the time they come 5, 6 o'clock, they should know actually who's playing and who's not going to play in the early games in the NBA and obviously in hockey as well, and give you an idea what's going on in baseball. So by all means, check them all out. They're all good people, lots of fun. All right. Okay, gang. For Chris King, I'm Jim Williams saying we enjoyed having you here today. We're going to be back again tomorrow at 2 o'clock. By all means, come on back, because we always enjoy chatting with you guys. Until then, bye-bye.